Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over the updated rules for Warp Coven in the new edition. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. What do you think of the new Warp Coven rules? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support as well as an affiliate link at Crossfire Games and Element Games. But let's get into it. I'll be covering the updated Warp Coven rules, which you can find on Warhammer Community for free, as well as the Kill Team app. So these are all the updated teams in my White Dwarf double bill. So for the Warp Coven roster, you're still Recon and Security, which is a very nice mix to have. Probably the best two archetypes at the moment. Then you can effectively select a 6 operative Warp Coven kill team, but this is different. So you can take a Sorcerer of Destiny, a Sorcerer of Timperion, and a Sorcerer of Warpfire. You can also take a Rubric Warp Marine Gunner with either a Warp Flamer or Soul Reaper Cannon. Then you can take a Rubric Marine Icon Bearer, a Rubric Marine Warrior, then a Zangor Champion with either a Great Axe or Great Blade, then a Zangor Horn Bearer, a Zangor Icon Bearer, a Zangor Warrior with either Zangor Blades, Blades and Shield, or Auto Pistol and Chainsword, and then you have some restrictions within that. So for your Psykers, they are armed with Force Staves, which have psychic weapons on their data card and one of the following options. So they can either have an Inferno Bolt Pistol, a Prosperine Kopesh, or a Warp Flame Pistol, and your kill team can only include up to 1 Warp Flame Pistol and up to 1 per Soul Reaper Cannon. Then when it comes to your Zangor, these operatives count as half a selection each. So instead of selecting basically a Rubric Marine or a Psyker, you can select 2 Zangors. And then you must select at least 1 friendly Sorcerer operative to be one of your leaders, and it gains the leader keyword and +1 to its operative's wound stat for the battle. Other than Warrior and Gunner operatives, you can only have each operative listed once, but you can include up to 2 Gunners. Remember, you still can't have 2 Soul Reaper Cannons, so you could have 2 Warp Flamer Gunners, but you're limited to just 1 Soul Reaper Cannon. So it's a very comprehensive list, which I'll get into for Operative Selection. But it does mean if you took 3 Sorcerers and then 3 selections of Zangors, that would give you a 9 operative kill team, which is 9 activations. So they're this weird fusion team, which is very nice. For faction rules, you have boons of Tzeentch. So whenever you select a Sorcerer operative for the battle, you must select a boon of Tzeentch below for it to have for the battle. You can then select each boon of Tzeentch more than once per battle. So you have Incorporeal Sight. This operative's ranged weapons have the Saturate weapon rule. Whenever this operative is shooting, enemy operatives can't be obscured. This is very, very good. Then you've got Time Walk. Add 1 inches to this operative's move stat. Echoes from the Warp. Once per battle, when you counteract with this operative, you can change its order and perform an additional 1 action point for action for free during that counteraction, but both actions must be different. This is amazing. Then you've got Warp Swell. Add 1 to the normal damage of this operative's melee weapons. Then you've got Immaterial Flight. Once per turning point, when this operative is performing the charge or reposition action during its activation, it can fly. If it does, don't move it. Instead, remove it from the kill zone and set it back wholly within a distance equal to its move stat of its original location, measuring the horizontal distance only. In a kill zone that uses the close quarters rules, i.e. Gallowdark, this distance cannot be measured over or through wall terrains, and that operative cannot be set up on the other side of an access point. In other words, it cannot fly through an open hatchway. Note that it gains no additional distance when it performs a charge action. It must be set up in a location that it can be placed. Unless it's a charge action, it cannot be set up within control range. It's okay, but because you don't benefit when you dash as well, you used to be able to like dash onto a vantage point and then move back down, but now you actually can't really do that. So I don't think Immaterial Fly is that great. Then you've got Twist of Fate. This operative psychic ranged weapons have the Piercing Crits 1 weapon rule. Then you've got Mutant Appendage. Having an enemy operative within this operative's control range doesn't prevent it from performing the pickup marker actions or mission actions, which is really powerful. And then once per activation, this operative can perform the pickup marker, place marker, or mission action for 1 AP less. So this is really good, especially if you're running on melee operatives like melee sorcerers, because that means you can charge the point and cap it while in combat, which most teams can't really do anymore. Then you've got Astral Bombardment. Select one of this operative's psychic's ranged weapons. That weapon has the Devastating 1 weapon roll. If you selected a Doom Bolt, it has the Devastating 2-inch weapon roll instead of the Devastating 2. So that's okay. Then you've got Master of the Immaterium. Add 3 inches to the distance requirements of this operative psychic actions that have a distant requirement, which is fine. Then you've got the Astartes rule. During each friendly Warp Coven Heretic Astartes operative's activation, it can perform either 2 shoot actions or 2 fight actions. If it's 2 shoot actions and a Soul Reaper Cannon or Warp Fire Flamer is selected for both, One additional action point must be spent for the second action. You cannot select the same psychic range weapon for more than once per activation. So what this means is if you're firing the Warp Flamer or the Soul Reaper cannon, it's 3 action points to fire them twice. But it looks like your Sorcerer can fire 2 different psychic weapons if it has so, which is very flexible. And then each friendly Heretic Astartes operative can counteract regardless of its order, which is also a standard Space Marine rule, which is very good. For ploys, for strategy ploys, you have Ethereal Warding. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Warp Coven operative, worse the X of the piercing weapon roll by 1. If any, note that piercing 1 would therefore be ignored. This is amazing. Very, very good. I like that then when Legionary have it, you're probably spending this every turn from turning point 2 onwards. Fate itself is my weapon. Roll 2d6 and reserve them. Put them to one side. In the following firefight phase, whenever an operative is shooting, fighting, or retaliating, after you or your opponent roll their attack dice, but before rerolls, you can use one of your reserved dice to replace one of those d6 rolled for that sequence. Yours or your opponent's. You can use one of your reserve dice to replace 1d6 for that sequence. That replacement dice cannot be changed or re-rolled and is discarded at the end of that sequence. Then if the combined result of both reserve dice was less than 9, discard the other dice. You cannot use more than 1 reserve dice per sequence. Discard any remaining at the end of the turning point. So how this effectively works is you roll 2d6. If the value was less than 9, you discard one of them. But if you get a really good result, like a 6, you probably keep it. If you get a 1, you actually keep that to give it to your opponent. Very, very funny and nice. I actually like this quite a lot. Because you're basically getting 1 to 2 dice out of this, you may not use it every turn, but it's very Tzeentchy. Then you've got Brotherhood of Sorcerers. Friendly Sorcerers, Operative, Psychic weapons have the balanced weapon rule, or Ceaseless instead if another friendly Sorcerer is within 9 inches of this operative. This is amazing. This is great. You're always spending CP for this. Then you've got Savage Herd. Friendly Zangor operatives melee weapons have the accurate 1 weapon rule. Whenever a friendly Zangor operative is assisted by a Warp Coven operative or is fighting while within visible and within 6 inches of a friendly Sorcerer operative, that friendly Zangor operatives melee weapons also have the severe weapon rule. So this actually has a huge buff to your Zangors. They get accurate 1, and then if they're fighting, with a friendly operative in support, that's an Heretic Astartes, another Warp Coven operative, so another Zangor, or is within 6 inches of the Sorcerer, gains severe as well, which is very powerful. So really, really good there for your Zangors. For Firefight Ploys, you have All is Dust. Use this Firefight Ploy when an attack dice inflicts normal damage on a friendly Rubric Marine. That dice inflicts 1 damage instead. So it's almost just a scratch, still very, very good. Then you've got Capricious Plan. Use this Firefight Ploy at the end of a Sorcerer's Operative's activation. That friendly operative can immediately perform a free dash action, even if performed an action that prevents it from doing the dash action, and or it can change its order. So you can move up, dash, switch to engage, shoot, then dash, and then switch to conceal. Very, very good. Then you've got Psychic Cabal. Use this Firefight Ploy when a friendly Warp Coven operative Sorcerer is activated. Select one other friendly Sorcerer visible and within 9 inches of that operative. Then select one of that other friendly operative's psychic unique actions or psychic ranged weapons that friendly operative has to use until the end of its activation. So you kind of just go I will use that ability if I'm in a better position. So it's fine, but it's a lot of CP for that. Then you've got Mutant Herd. You use this Firefight Ploy when a friendly Warp Coven Zangor operative is activated. Select one other friendly Warp Coven Zangor operative visible within 2 inches to activate at the same time. Complete their actions in any order. So this is very powerful and is really powerful with Savage Herd because you pick 2 different Zonging Zangors. They both charge, and because they're both supporting each other, you can do charge, fight, fight. So when the first one fights, because it's being supported by the other Zangor, it will get severe on top of accurate 1, and then the same can happen again. Very, very good. The only issue is all your ploys are very, very good. So you're going to burn through a lot of your command points very quickly. For your operatives, you have Sorcerer of Destiny, which is 3 APL, 6-inch move, 3 up save, and 14 wounds. This is the standard profile for your Sorcerers. They're all on 32mm bases. Remember, one of them will be 15 wounds because you have to make one your leader. So it has the Doom Bolt Wet Psychic Weapon, which is 4 attack, on freeze, 4/4 Psychic, Devastating 2, lethal 5 up. Then you have Inferno Bolt Pistol, which is 4 attacks, on freeze, 3/4 range 8, piercing 1. The Warp Flame Pistol, which is 4 attacks, on 2s, 3/3 range 6, piercing 1, torrent. And then the Force Stave, which is 4 attacks, on freeze, 4/6 psychic shock. And then the Prospering Kopesh, which is 5 attacks, on freeze, 4/6 lethal 5 up. So remember, only one of your sorcerers will be able to have the Warp Flame Pistol, and then you know, only one of them can have two of them could have Kopeshes instead. And you always want to take the Warp Flame Pistol. But personally, I think you probably get more benefit out of the Warp Flame Pistol in this operative than you do the melee, because you can shoot Doombolt someone and then flame someone both at piercing 1. Then you've got Protected by Fate for 1 action point. As a psychic action, select 1 friendly operative visible to this operative until the start of this operative's next activation, until it's incapacitated or until its action is performed again by a friendly operative, whichever comes first. Whenever an operative is shooting that selected operative, you can reroll one of your defense dice. So you pick someone and they just get reroll defense dice, which is very good, and you cannot do this while in control range. Then you've got Ravage Destiny for 1 action point. As a psychic action, select 1 enemy operative visible to and within 9 inches of this operative until the start of this operative's next activation, until it's incapacitated or until it performs its action again or by a friendly operative, whichever comes first. Whenever the enemy operative is shooting, fighting, or retaliating, your opponent must reroll their attack dice results of a 6, and whenever determining control over an objective marker, treat that enemy operative's APL stat as 1 lower. No, it's not a change to their APL stat, it's just for controlling, and you cannot perform this while in control range. The Destiny Sorcerer is pretty good. Like, Doombolt's a great pop and boom, like, very nice. But I do like Ravage Destiny, picking a key operative your opponent's moving up with, especially with other elites, because it means you now only need 1 elite to trade with another elite for controlling points. And Protected by Fate is quite good. So the Sorcerer of Destiny is a really weird situation where it's got the offensive Doombolt, but then 2 very defensive powers. So you're probably only using Doombolt when it's safe to, like you're probably using your ploy to switch back to conceal after. So like switch to engage, do Protected by Fate, Ravage Destiny, Doombolt, switch back to conceal. Then you've got your Sorcerer of Temperion, who has Flux Blast, which is 4 taxi on freeze, 3/4 Psychic Blast, 2 rending. Then you've got Inferno Bolt Pistol, which is 4 taxi on freeze, 3/4 range 8 piercing 1. The Warp Flame Pistol, the Force Stave, and the Prospering Kopesh. It's got Temporal Flux, so for 1 action point as a psychic action, select 1 friendly operative visible and within 6 inches of this operative and place your Temporal Flux marker within the operative's control range. At the end of that operative's next activation, if it hasn't been incapacitated and is still wholly within 6 inches of your Temporal Flux marker, remove the operative from the kill zone and set it back up within a location it can be placed. When it's set back up, it must have your Temporal Flux marker within its control range, or as close as possible. Then remove your Temporal Flux marker from the kill zone. If that operative isn't wholly within 6 inches of your Temporal Flux marker, including if it's incapacitated, remove that marker from the kill zone. You cannot do this while in control range, or if your Temporal Flux marker is controlling the kill zone. So how this works is, let's say I pick a gunner who, like, let's say the Soul Reaper cannon. I give that, and then place it like ahead of its base. Then it can reposition and potentially dash. As long as it stays within 6, then it shoots, and then at the end of its activation, it will teleport back to that spot. So effectively think of it as a weird rewind teleportation, where you can push forward and then immediately come back into hiding. This is very powerful. Then you've got Reconstitution Ritual for 1 action point. It's a psychic action. Select 1 visible operative visible and within 6 inches of the operative, and it gains 2d3 lost wounds. Can't do while in control range of enemy operatives. Amazing, a really good heal, which is great for elite kill teams. So the Sorcerer of Temperion is going to be really good. Then you've got the Sorcerer of Warp Fire, who has Firestorm, which is 5 attacks, hit on 4s, 2 free, Psychic, Saturate, Seek Light, Torrent 2. So this has actually been improved. It used to be, used to be Blast Black. So it's Torrent 2, so it actually has a bigger blast range, which is very nice. Then you've got Inferno Bolt Pistol, which is 4 attacks. Then you've got Mind Burn, which is 5 attacks, hit on 4s, 1/1, Psychic, Lethal 5-up, Saturate, Seek, and Mind Burn. So Mind Burn is in the Resolve attack dice step. If you inflict any damage with critical successes, the operative this weapon is being used against gains 1 of your Mind Burn tokens if it doesn't have one already, until the end of its next activation, or until it's incapacitated, or until a friendly operative uses this weapon again. Whenever an operative that has one of your Mind Burn tokens worsen the hit stat of its weapons by 1, so it isn't cumulative with being injured. So effectively you tag someone and then a -1 to hit, but they actually aren't injured, but some nice tagging. Then you can either have a Force Stave or Prospering Kopesh. Then it has a Light, so for 1 action point as a psychic action, select 1 enemy operative visible to this operative until the start of this operative's next activation, or until it's incapacitated, or until this action is performed again. That enemy operative gains 1 of your Light tokens if it doesn't already have one. Whenever a friendly Warp Coven operative is shooting against or fighting against or retaliating against an enemy that has 1 of your Light tokens, Your friendly operatives have the relentless special war rule. And considering this works on Zangors, this is very, very good, very powerful. So the Sorcerer of Warp Fire actually might be someone you maybe give the Warp Flame Pistol instead. It's very dubious. I think you definitely want the Kopeshes on the other two, but this is a very good sorcerer. Effectively, as it's just dishing out relentless to people. Very, very nice. He just chips people away. He can't do it while, you know, none of them have silent, so you're going to have to be careful with how you shoot with your sorcerers. But very, very nice. They're all very powerful. Then you've got your Rubric Marine Gunner, which is 3 APL, a 5-inch move, a 2-up armor save, and 14 wounds. So obviously they've gone from 12 to 14 wounds, but they now have a 2-up save all the time, but I've gone down to a 5-inch move. They have the Soul Reaper Cannon Focused, which is 5 attack seen on freeze, 4/5 piercing 1. Then the Sweeping Mode, which is 4 attack seen on freeze, 4/5 piercing 1, torrent 1. Then you've got the Warp Flamer, which is 4 attack seen on 2s, 4/4, range 8, saturate, piercing 1, torrent 2. So very, very good. And then Fists, which are 3 attack seen on freeze, 3/4. It has the Sorceress Automata ability. Whenever this operative is activated, subtract 1 from its APL stat until the end of that activation, unless a friendly Warp Coven sorcerer is within 9 inches of it. So the key thing to remember here, when you're activated and you're within 9 inches of your sorcerer, you will go down to 2 APL, so you have to keep that net alive, but because it's 9 inches, that's pretty easy to do. Then you've got your Icon Bearer, who has an Inferno Bolt Gun, which is 4 attacks on freeze, 3/4 piercing 1, and then Fists. Has the Icon Bearer and Sorcerer's Automata special rule. So the Icon Bearer, when you determine control of an objective, you count as 1 APL higher. It's not a modifier. This actually has been nerfed, because before it used to give buffs to your Psychers. Now it doesn't do anything. I don't think it's worth taking. Then you've got your Rubric Marine Warrior, who has the Inferno Bolt Gun and Fist, and the Sorcerer Automata special rule. It also has a Slow and Purposeful special rule. So whenever this operative is shooting, if it hasn't performed a charge or reposition action during its activation, or its counteraction, its ranged weapons have the Ceaseless Weapon rule. No, it doesn't restrict you from doing these rules after shooting. This is very, very powerful. Like if you set up in position, you just go shoot once, twice with Ceaseless, and then move out of the way. But this Rubric Marine Warrior, because it's 2-up armor save, you can happily move up like on top of a vantage point and just go like, I'm just going to stand and shoot there. I'm on a vantage point, so unless you're on the same level as me, I'm retaining a hit as a 2-up save, and I ignored piercing. So warriors are actually really, really good, and there's some instances where you're actually taking 3 warriors all the time, in addition to 3 psychers. They're very good. Then you've got your Zangor Champion. It has 2 APL, a 6-inch move, and a 5-up save, along with 10 wounds. So this is a buff. They used to have 8. It gets +1 because it's your Zangor Champion. So now all Zangors are base 9-inch or 9 wounds, which is very good. You have the Great Axe or the Great Blade. So the Great Axe is 4 attacks hit on freeze, 4/5 brutal, lethal 5-up. And then the Great Blade is 4 attacks hit on freeze, 4/5 lethal 5-up rending. I personally prefer the Great Axe because of brutal, but the rending one is all right. Like technically the rending is better if you're trying to 2-hit a 10 wound operative, but I think it's fine with the Great Axe. So it's up to your choice at the end of the day. It has Savage Brutality. The first time this operative performs a fight action during each of its activations, if it isn't incapacitated, it can immediately perform another fight action afterwards. You don't have to select the same operative to fight against. This takes precedence over other operatives. This got buffed. It can double fight everyone. What the hell? Like, what? So it can charge into, like, let's say 2 guardsmen, hit 1 for 5 damage, kill it, and then fight again. And it's got 10 wounds. Yeah, the champion's amazing. Wow. Always take the champion. Then you've got the Horn Bearer, who has 9 wounds. It's got a dagger, which is 4 attacks on force, 3/5. It can blow its horn for 0 action points. There used to be an action point before. Until the next ready step, add 1 inch to the move stat of friendly Zangor operatives, so they go up to a 7-inch move, and you can't do well in control range. Very nice. Then you've got the Icon Bearer, so it has a dagger as well. So it's got Herd Banner. Whenever an attack dice inflicts 3 or more damage on a friendly Zangor operative that's visible and within 3 inches operative, -1 the inflicted damage, and then it counts as an icon. So this is actually really good. It used to give us a reroll to invulnerable saves, I believe, but now it's just flat -1 damage when everyone's at least 9 wounds. This is great. Then you've got the Zangor Warrior. It can either have an auto pistol and chainsword, which is 4 attacks on force 2/3, and then 4 attacks on force 4/5. Then the Blade and Shield, which is 4 attacks on force 3/4 shield. So if you use the shield rule, this operative has a 4-up save instead of 5-up save. And whether it's fighting or retaliating with this weapon, each of your blocks can be allocated to block 2 unresolved successes instead of 1. Then you've got the Zangor Blades, which are 4 attacks on force 4-5 balanced. So it's got a new weapon profile with the blade and shield, and then it also has the Relic Hunter's ability. So once per turning point, one friendly Zangor or warrior can perform the pickup marker, place marker, or mission action for one less action point if that friendly operative is within your opponent's territory. So this is a way to get pseudo free APL, but only works on stuff wholly within your opponent's territory. If this operative is wholly within your opponent's territory. So you can actually do some clutch things where you run onto the middle objective, but where you're wholly within your opponent's territory, then you can like pop it for free. It's very, very nice, very good. I generally like double Zangor blades, but I think with Accurate 1, you might get more out of the chainsword and auto pistol. But I think double blades is the option. And then if you're fighting into melee teams, or you're like maybe into guardsman teams, you could get away with the blade and shield, especially if you're using Zangors as just roadblocks to slow down the opponent. So personally, you're either going blades or blades, like dual blades or blades and shields. So for faction equipment, you have ensorcelled rounds. Friendly Warp Coven operatives, Inferno bolt guns, in bolt pistols, and auto pistols have the devastating one weapon rule, which is all right. Then you've got Demon Maul weapons. Add one to the attack stat of friendly Rubric Marine operatives, melee weapons. When a friendly Rubric Marine operative is retaliating, its melee weapons have the Accurate 1 weapon rule. So they go to 4 attacks, and then if someone charges and fights you, you get Accurate 1. So they're more defensive, but it's nice. Then you've got Arcane Robes. Whenever an attack dice would inflict critical damage on a friendly Sorcerer operative, you can choose for that attack dice to inflict normal damage instead. You cannot use this rule for each friendly Warp Coven Sorcerer for more than once per turning point. So this is actually buffed, because now you can do it once per turning point on every Sorcerer instead of just one Sorcerer once per turning point. Very nice. Then you've got Sorcerer's Scrolls. So once per battle, when a friendly Sorcerer operative is activated or counteracts, you can use one additional boon of Tzeentch for it to have until the end of the turning point, but it cannot be the same boon of Tzeentch that other friendly operatives have. This takes precedence over normal boons of Tzeentch rules. Note that you can use this rule when a friendly operative counteracts and you select Echoes from the Warp. It can be immediately used to change this operative's order and perform a free action during that counteraction, hinting at what boon you should select, which is very funny. So equipment is very good. You always take Sorcerer's Scrolls, Arcane Robes, and then I think if you're going heavy on the rubrics, then you take the Ensorcelled rounds and the Demon Maul weapons. But if you're going more Zangor heavy, you're probably taking 2 cracks. You can play around with that, but very good faction equipment as a whole. So when it comes to Operative Selection, going for collecting purposes first, a Warp Coven kill team, because it was a White Dwarf kill team, it's not a dedicated kill team box. It's very expensive to get into, because you need a box of Rubric Marines, which will give you 9 Rubric Marines and a Sorcerer. And then you would also need the other 2 Sorcerer, or the Sorcerer box that has 3 different Sorcerers. So you can have 3 more Sorcerers. And then you need the Zangor box to give you 10 Zangors to build your selections from, which makes it very expensive, but you're always going 3 Sorcerers, right? So you always have 1 with the Warp Flame Pistol and 2 with Kopeshes. In my opinion, you could run 3 with Kopeshes into melee teams, so the Warp Flame Pistol is very good. You're always taking a Destiny, Temperion, and Warp Fire. The boons are very complicated, even for me. I need to do a proper deep dive on those, but I would recommend you pick the ones that will think will be best. Then you've got the only thing to clarify with the boons, if they're once per tournament or once per game, because if you can change them per game, that's very good. Then if you're going Rubric Marine wise, I would always go with 1 Soul Reaper cannon. It's very good. And then have the option to go 2 Warp Flamers, especially on Gallow Dark, because that's very good. I would also have 3 Rubric Warriors, just in case you're running into elites, because you could do 3 Sorcerers and 3 Rubric Warriors, which are very nice, or 3 Sorcerers, 2 Rubric Warriors, and a Soul Reaper cannon. And then for my Zangors, personally, I would go with the Great Axe, but you can build one with the Great Axe and Great Blade for the Zangor champion. You want the Horn Bearer, you want the Icon Bearer, and then you probably want 2 to 4 Warriors with a mixture. Like, I would probably make 2 to 4 with dual blades, and then maybe make like 2 with shields in case I wanted to take them for like defensive purposes. But that's why you buy a box of 10 Zangor. And then like, so if I was into elites, 3 Sorcerers, Soul Reaper cannon, 2 Rubric Marines, or maybe a 3rd Rubric Marine instead of the Soul Reaper cannon. I also am a big fan of, when into hordes as well, going pure rubrics, especially on Gallow Dark, going 2 Warp Flamers, because 2 Warp Flamers will just murder stuff, an additional rubric. But I am a big fan of going like 3 Sorcerers, 2 Rubrics, and then the Zangor champion and the Horn Bearer. But if you're only going, like, let's say with 3 sorcerers, the Soul Reaper cannon, then I would take the Zangor champion, the Horn Bearer, the Icon Bearer, and a normal warrior with dual blades. So you've got quite a flexible and extensive list, and you can increase it or decrease it depending on what your opponent you're having. I would highly recommend Recon, but Security is really good for this kill team. They have great archetypes to select from, and no matter what you select, your operatives can support that, which is really good. So they're expensive, but very flexible and powerful. So for the Warp Coven overview, this team is bonkers, very good. Your basic rubric, well, all your rubric marines are 2-up save, 14 wounds, and 5-inch movement, which is very, very good. You have a way to accurately heal them. You now have fixed sorcerers. The team's a little, it's still complicated. Like it's still a complicated kill team, but it's very powerful. All your guns effectively have piercing 1 minimum, and because you can ignore piercing 1 for a command point, you can now laugh into other enemy teams. Like it's crazy how effective having just rubric standing in the open behind cover will just endure so much damage now, because they have that 2-up save with 14 wounds, just like shooting people, especially triggering Ceaseless, while your sorcerers ping around and do stuff. Zangor are a lot better now because they've got 9 wounds minimum, and like, you know, they've got accurate 1 built in. They're a bit more vulnerable, but they can still get their piercing, like their piercing downgrade as well. Very good, such a good kill team. Still incredibly complex. I haven't fully figured out on the boons I would want. There's a lot of like umming and ahhing there, especially like who you give Kopeshes to, because the interesting thing is if you build Warp Flame, if you buy the Sorcerer's Box as well, it means you can build 3 wood Kopeshes, I believe, or like proxy 3 wood Kopeshes, although you only get 2 in the box, but there's ways around it effectively. So for like the double Kopesh, you know, it's very interesting. This kill team is really powerful and definitely one of the most strongest teams in the game. It's just great. You can now, you no longer feel forced to go in the Zangors. You can actually run the Rubric Marines quite powerful, like quite confidently, because they will just stick there and survive. You've got Recon, you've got Security. The only problem is you're incredibly command point hungry. So you're going to have to make sure the turn you commit, you hit hard, because while you can grind people down, if you're grinding them down and then burning through your CP, you're going to find yourself in situations where you just can't push up anymore because you burn out. So you need to remember that, because the Ploys really maximize stuff, especially like your Zangors, because you're probably always spending the command point to negate piercing. But they're a very powerful kill team, very expensive, but very, very good. Definitely one of the biggest winners this edition. But that's pretty much it for me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of this review. What do you think of the new Wormblade? Well, the Warp Coven, sorry. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Element Games and Crossfire Games, and then a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'll quickly shout out my patrons. So for my Adepts of the Crab, Zombie Businessman, Tom, Supercow, Steven, Sam, Nick, Mercenary Q, Mr. Meatword, Lucas, John Thomas, Graham, Fangzu, Draken, Dave Meetsworld, Darcy, Dad of Goldens, Chris, and then for my Veterans of the Crab, Sam, Ryan, and Mark. So thank you all for your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, I'm actually in the process of building, well, finishing painting my Warp Coven kill team. I actually have the models, I've just never painted them. So I'm converting some Horus Heresy bits of time to like my Chaos theme, like Horus Heresy Chaos theme for my Chaos kill teams. But this team is very, very tempting. And it's like one I want to learn, because I think, you know, Legionary is pretty tough for them. But I think this kill team is very, very good in general and will catch so many people off guard, because they'll underestimate it, especially when you go 3 sorcerers and 3 rubrics. But I think they're very, very good. So no matter what happens when you're playing against the dedicated Tzeentch warriors, remember there's always a chance to win as long as you can roll a crit.